Becoming Elli podcast, episode 19.
Hi, I'm Jill.
And I'm Chris. Well, welcome to the Becoming Elli podcast, where we talk about how we prepared for, ran, and recovered from the Akron Half Marathon.
We'll see you at Canal Park.
There's a lot to talk about today, isn't there? It's hard to know where to even start.
There is a lot. So, let's start. Let's skip to the end for just a moment. How are you feeling, Chris?
I am amazed how good I'm actually feeling, because I expected that I'd be dragging this whole week, and I was worried about getting hurt for so much of my training that I took it easy. And, right now I'm feeling great. I'm very happy to admit. How about you, Jill? How are you doing?
Well, I actually feel pretty good too. I noticed that I have some muscle soreness in my legs and hips, but I'm moving around. I went to yoga last night, which felt wonderful. I certainly felt it, but I was able to get through yoga without problem, and I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the reason I'm feeling okay is I took some tips from Loretta Harlan. I talked with her. We talked to her in the last podcast, and she talked about not doing too much rest, to do an active rest or active recovery. So I did a bike ride on Sunday and, the day after, and I think that helped a lot.
Right. I went to the gym the day after and found the rollers, and I rolled and rolled, and then I did some stretches and used the physio ball or exercise ball or whatever and just did some sort of core stuff. And then in the afternoon, I went for a walk, not a particularly brisk walk, but I just kept moving. And I really do think moving as sort of an active recovery is key.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. The other thing that I did for recovery that I have added in the last year or so is an ice bath. And I know that helped me a lot. And, I kind of stockpiled some ice cubes throughout the week before and got in the bathtub with ice water. And I think that helped my muscles from not swelling, and it really kept the inflammation down.
So you told me that, so I tried it. I had not stockpiled ice, but I had, a bucket full and dumped it in there. And I think it really did think it helped. I certainly noticed it in my feet.
Yes.
Because I could feel my feet sort of
just
becoming less puffy, just sitting in there. I think that was helpful, and I will do that again. And next time I will stockpile some ice in advance.
Yeah. I guess for all of my different recovery things, I did the roller, I used a golf ball on my feet, the ice bath, the active recovery, doing slow. I didn't do a fast bike ride or a hard bike ride. It was just, sauntering kind of thing. It was not a hard one, but it felt really good. It was about 2 hours at less than 10 miles an hour. Just a real nice,
right,
calm.
A nice, slow, leisure. Again, like I said, a leisurely walk.
Yeah.
You were doing a leisurely bike ride.
Exactly. And I'm going to keep that on my list of how to recover, because those things really make a difference. What I think was missing from my recovery, I should have done more of, was a protein drink right after the run. Like maybe have the powder there with me at the stadium, where the party is.
Right.
Because I think I needed more protein than what I was getting. And after I got home, I had some fish, some tuna, I had some eggs, I ate more protein, and that just felt a lot better to me. But I think that's what I was missing. Not exactly sure.
Yeah, there was something about the end of the race and what was available to eat and drink that didn't seem to work for me.
You mean the beer and pizza?
Well, the pizza just really...
Pizza, didn't do it for me this year.
It made me feel ill, actually. So I did drink the chocolate milk.
Yes.
That helped. So I think it was a combination there of some protein and sugar.
Yep, I would agree with that.
And then I ate the banana. So that, when I ate the banana and drank the chocolate milk, that helped.
Yeah. Now, I didn't eat the banana, but I did chew on some pretzels because I wanted some salt,
Yeah. I ate the pretzels when I got home, actually, because, yes, you're right, salt was a good idea. So I would agree. I need to figure out something to have with me. And I will say that Karen, who we ran with, or who ran at the same time.
She ran faster than me.
she beat us both to the stadium by a significant amount of time. But she brought a peanut butter sandwich with her. So she sat down at the end of the race and drank the chocolate milk and ate the peanut butter sandwich. It could be she's just in better shape, or she had a better after-race snack because she seemed in much better recovery mode than I was.
Well, it might be a little bit of both, but I think...
I may haul a peanut butter sandwich with me next time.
Right. That seemed like a good move.
I was really wishing I had one when she said it.
So, from a recovery standpoint, was there anything else that you did that I should try for next time?
Well, I did go to yoga last night, and it was a nice, gentle yoga. It was not power yoga. It was a sort of a flow, gentle yoga. It felt wonderful. I could feel my hips and legs sort of stretching, and at times it was almost painful. And sitting, it was like, to start with, sit in a comfortable position, while my comfortable position was basically stick my legs out in front of me because doing anything else was not comfortable.
Yep.
But by the end of the session, I felt much better. So I think that was worth having. So that was 2 days after the race, but it really did feel good by the end of the session.
So you got loosened up there.
I did, yeah. And today I feel significantly better than I did even yesterday.
Yeah.
Today I feel great.
Yeah, I had problems all through my training this past summer with my Achilles tendinitis on my right foot, and so much so that I went to the doctor a couple times. And actually, when we were at the expo, the doctor that I attend was there and had a representative from KT Tape there, and they taped my ankle. And I'm not sure if it was the taping and the way they taped it, but I'm just amazed. But I've not even had a twinge in my Achilles since then, or even like during the race it was sore, but it wasn't sore in the same way that, oh my gosh, I'm hurt. And I fully expected that I was going to have problems, and I'm just really happy that I didn't. So I would say if we start talking about what we're going to do ahead of time from the race, I don't know, maybe at this point we could segue into that.
Yeah, let's do that.
I am definitely going to figure out exactly how they wrap my leg with that KT tape, because that has been wonderful.
Well, she did a very elaborate taping of your leg, much because I told her I had a problem with my Achilles, and she did sort of a basic taping, and then she wrapped your leg up like a Christmas present. But
well, she had poked it a little bit on the one side, and she says, "It doesn't hurt right there?" And I'm like, yeah, that hurts right there. It really hurts there. She goes, "That's what I thought." And that's then how she kind of wrapped it around there. And I've taken pictures of it, but I can't get a decent picture. And I've gone online and I've tried to find the same taping routine, and I haven't found that either. But I'm bound and determined to really, kind of document that so that I can replicate that.
You know what? Have you looked at the KT website?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I fully expected to find it, but I haven't yet.
Maybe they have a customer service email or Twitter or something, and you could just ask them how she did it.
Yeah.
If she has, track her down.
Yeah, I think she'd be pretty easy to find. That's a great idea. That's going to be definitely on my pre-list as I'm doing training again. And I think the other thing that I want to make a difference next time is keeping a better log as I'm doing my training. because I did that last year and I also did that for the Cleveland half. But this time I did not write down and keep track of all of my runs as carefully as I did in the past. So right now I can't go back and say exactly when I ran, how far, which kind of run it was, and, how fast I went and all those type of things. And I kind of like to go back and dissect it to figure out what can I do better for next time. So that's something that for sure I'm going to do next time, is keep track better.
I had a training plan, but I basically sort of pitched it because I was traveling this summer, I was doing lots of things, and so my training became very erratic, and I feel that it detracted from my performance a bit. I didn't feel as prepared, and I became very fatigued in the last quarter part of the half marathon.
Mm-hmm. Well, what did you like for getting ready for your training? What did you do? I mean, I know, but I'm just trying to get you to verbalize it for our listeners.
So I did run. I ran.
Of course you ran. But I think you ran some races, right?
So I did. I ran. So let's see. We did the Cleveland Marathon in May, and then I ran a 5K when I was on vacation in June. And then we ran the Firecracker 5K.
Beginning of July.
In the beginning of July. So I think that was it for my race.
Did you run another one in August? I thought you did. Maybe no other races.
I think so. I was going to. So my plan was originally to run a race every month, just as sort of part of my... And then I don't believe I ran one in August because... I'm not sure why, because...
Well, you were traveling a couple times. You had some unplanned visits.
Yeah, and I think everyone was sort of feeling like they didn't want to spend the money on it, and I didn't do it. I didn't run a race in August. And also, the races that I ran this summer were all 5Ks. Last year, I ran at least one 10K and a 5 mile, I think. And I think if I do this again next year, I will make sure I get a 10K on the calendar, because I did miss it. Because when you have that on the calendar, you train for what you have in front of you.
You're right about that.
So I missed it. I just realized by late August that I hadn't done that, and now I was sort of behind on my long runs. And yes, I had travel. I had a lot of things going on this summer, so I understand that my training was a bit more haphazard than normal. And I did run. I just probably didn't run so sort of like what you were saying, you weren't tracking. I wasn't as organized as I could have been. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, hey, this week I need to do X amount of miles or whatever, or I want to make sure I get some speed work in there or something, I just was constantly, I'll go out and run, and I would run for however much time I had. So I was not as organized this year.
Well, I know in August I did the bike ride, and prior to that, I had done a 5K in July, and then I did the duathlon in June.
Oh, right.
And the Cleveland half. So that was all good. But when I ran the 5K, the Firecracker in July, it was a very hot day and a nice course. But I remember really kicking it at the end, and I was paying for it a little bit with my Achilles. It started there. And then a couple of my training runs, I had some problems with my Achilles. I had to change shoes that I hadn't planned on it. My shoes were going to last me through the season, and then my new shoes were not fitting exactly right. So I feel like I have all these excuses, but I really was struggling with my Achilles to the point where I almost didn't run the Cleveland half. I had considered, either taking it down to a relay or not even doing it this year, but I agree with you that having races on the calendar, or, a very consistent training plan where you're really doing the mileage and really doing the intervals, the tempo runs, the hills, actually doing the plan makes a huge difference in how fun the race actually is.
Yeah. On the other hand, we did run the half marathon.
Yes.
And we finished, and we're now saying that we feel pretty good.
Right. And we did some long training runs. I think there's something that maybe people don't realize if they haven't trained for a half before, that you have to do some serious long runs along the way in order to make it to be a fun experience when you do the half. And we did do some long runs, which really
That's
helped.
true, which did help. You can't just go out and run and have 6 miles be your maximum distance and then think that running 13 miles is going to be a breeze. So, it's like people who say, oh, I'm going to go do a marathon, and the longest they've run is 10 miles. Well, that's kind of crazy talk.
Well, the other thing that I did that I had not done in the past was a different style of, it was actually given to me as physical therapy. And I posted that on one of the blog posts, and I have it in our Becoming Elli YouTube channel, where you do a side to side, I think they call it monster walk, with bands. And I found that really helped, because I typically don't strengthen side to side in the same way when I'm doing deadlifts and squats and things like that, lunges. That's more forward motion. But that side to side motion just really helps to strengthen muscles that you don't really think about,
Right. I do those sometimes at the gym, and I need to probably do those more regularly, because you're right, they do. You can definitely feel that in your hip. Mm-hmm. And that was what was sore on me after the race, was definitely my hips.
Right.
So,
and you don't really think of the side to side motion because you're doing so much forward motion, forward and back, with your legs swinging forward and back. But all of it matters. All of it matters. So.
Well, how did the actual race go? Let's talk about that.
What? So, Chris, are you nervous?
Not so much. I'm surprised. I feel pretty relaxed for only 20 minutes until we get started, but ask me again in another 5 minutes and then I'll be bouncing off the walls, I bet.
Okay, I sort of agree with that.
My plan for the race was to run for 90 seconds, walk for 30, kind of like the modified Jeff Galloway heart rate training program.
Right.
And, I have a Fitbit where you can set what your intervals are. So I did that, and not always consistently, because sometimes, honestly, I don't feel that little zit on your hand, on your wrist. And so I'll miss it, and, I'll be distracted by something in the race. But for the most part, that's what I did. And I had it set up so that I would be able to pace myself to be able to finish the race, but just within the timeline. And actually, I was a little bit slower, so I didn't finish when I thought I was going to, because I also walked the hills, which was something that my doctor said to do because of the Achilles. And so what I should have done was run the flats a little longer, I think, to match up, with the walk and the run.
Right.
I go across the start line. It's not big.
So are you nervous, Jill?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you nervous?
I'm getting there now.
Yeah, we're down to the wire, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Getting in the corral, all these people around.
We're slipping in here at the last minute.
Although I bet we still have 5 more minutes.
Well, by the time we get to the start line, we'll have already walked quite a bit.
Oh yeah, it'll be 7:15 by that point.
Yeah.
6:55. They already did the national anthem.
All right, I'm getting my headphones ready.
I should do that next. I did pretty well with the food that I had planned to bring with me, and the fueling, I guess you call it. I didn't drink enough water, though, because it was chilly, and I realized that I was drinking Gatorade, and maybe cutting that with water, but I didn't drink as much water, certainly not as much water as I drank the year before when it was hot. So I probably should have had a little bit more water than what I did, but I feel like the food worked pretty well.
What was your food? What did you bring?
I brought a Cliff shot block, and I ate 3 of those, 3 little
Right.
circles, kind of like gummy bears.
Yeah.
Just enough sugar to, raise my sugar level a little bit. And I also had a Kind bar, which I loved. At that point where I ate that was throughout the end of the race, towards the end of the race. And it has nuts and salt in it. And it was the salt that I really wanted at that point. Because even though it was cool, I was still sweating. But I felt like knowing the course made it so much easier because I knew what to expect.
Yes.
Mile 7 and 8 are on Brown Street. There is a long 2-mile slight upgrade, which, I knew to expect that. And I knew that mile 9 was going to be a whole mile of downhill, so I could make up, some time there. So, I just felt good about knowing the race course. And so when I got to mile 10 and turning the corner, when there's still a 5K left, I had all that in my head. And I really thought that went very well. And I think that was from our training runs, and doing it the year before. That went very well.
That was where I sort of fell apart. I was doing really well until I made that turn, and I just was tired. My legs were tired. I really struggled.
10.
At mile 10, those last 3 miles were challenging.
Yeah. Well, my mantra from mile 10 to the end was negative splits, but I just couldn't do it. I kind of kept them consistent, but I honestly, by the time I got to mile 11 and 12, I felt overall tired, and I could feel myself getting cranky. And, I wish that I had kept my positive mental attitude at that point. But, there's a lot of construction still. That's where the interstates were having their on-ramps with a lot of construction. So there were no supporters, really, to speak of during that point. And I think I missed that. I really missed having people, they write your name on the bib. So people will actually look you in the eye and say, Chris, you got this. And what a difference that makes. I mean, I really like it when people give you encouragement that way, as opposed to just, yay, runners, you can do it. That kind of stuff doesn't really help. But when somebody looks you in the eye, says your name, and just talks to you, that, to me, that's so powerful.
Yes, it was. I went through one of the fueling stations, grabbing water or whatever, and someone just sort of yelled out. They didn't look me in the eye because I was passing them. They just yelled out, "You've got this, Jill." Or no, they said, "Keep going, Jill." And I said, "I'm going."
Yeah. So how did the race go for you, Jill?
Well, the last 3 miles were a real challenge. I did not do well with pacing. So the other thing that happened, and when you were talking about the eating, that made me think of it. The last 2 miles or so, I all of a sudden realized that I was very hungry. And but when I ate something earlier, just sort of eating while you're running is a challenge. And
yes, it is.
I just remember thinking, "Oh, I'm almost there. I'll eat when I get to the finish line."
Okay.
And I'm not sure that was the healthiest or best decision because I found those last 2 miles to be just exhausting.
So what did you bring with you to eat?
I had those honey energy.
The stingers?
They were also the stingers. They're like gummy things too.
Okay.
And I ate a couple of those. I had some of my oatmeal balls that I make, and I did a blog post on the recipe for those.
Those are good.
They are good, and they're small, so they're easy to eat. But when I ate them, my mouth was obviously dry because it was sort of like choking down sawdust.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, normally they were good, but they didn't do it for me when I was eating them. Mm-hmm. And I had my water. I had my water belt on, and I had one water bottle with just water in it, and the other one with electrolyte drink in there. So I sort of alternated between those two. Mm-hmm. So I think I was okay hydration-wise, pretty much. I don't
Yeah.
think it was so. Last year at the end of the race, it was so hot, and I was clearly really low on the electrolytes.
Well, you and
I may have
everyone
been-
else too.
Right. So this one, I might have been low on it, but not significantly. So I felt like that part was an improvement. It was just the eating. Those gummy things are, to be honest, I know they're like they've got sugar and energy and stuff in them, but they're just kind of disgusting.
Yeah, they taste good at first, and then as you get farther into the race, you just can't. I don't want those. That's why I use the Kind bar towards the end. Because
That would
it
have been
had
a
the
good thing to
salt.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Kind bars just
Yeah.
even as a snack. So that would have been a good thing to have. Do you break it up, chop it up into pieces?
Yeah, I just take a little bit at a time because I don't know. I'm worried about eating too big of a piece and choking on it when I'm running. You
Right.
know?
Right. And I also know that, your body is putting all its energy into moving your
Right.
legs.
Right.
Your heart is pumping blood to your legs and all that. That's where your primary focus is. So if you start putting too much food into you, you're
Right.
going to it's going to divert to having to digest it. Either that or you're just going to end up feeling sick to your stomach. And maybe that was the issue. I don't know. That is the thing from my takeaway on this is I need to figure out the whole fueling part on this a little more. So, but the race itself, I felt was fine. I enjoyed it. There are parts of that race where there's lots of people out, and that's very energizing. And I don't know why I noticed there were several people out with just beautiful dogs this time, and I enjoyed seeing the dogs. And there was that one stand where people were giving out. Well, first of all, they were giving out beer. So, all right.
One stand, like at mile 3.5.
Yes, and then all of a sudden they said, "And we have tequila," and they were
gosh.
giving out shots of tequila.
Do you think anybody really was taking them up on it?
I don't know, but I can't imagine trying to finish the race with a shot of tequila in you. I'm worrying about eating a gummy bear or whatever it was.
I thought you were going to say at mile 9 where the neighborhood hands out marshmallows.
Oh yeah, that was all right. So that marshmallows actually make kind of sense because that's just pure sugar. That would be. I didn't take one, but I don't know why. I just always don't take things from the non-official places, but I bet that would have been probably not a bad snack.
Well, I don't know. I'm reluctant to take it from just spectators, although I'm sure that they only have our best wishes in mind. But I do remember it, feeling like if I put a marshmallow in my mouth, I don't know that my teeth could chop it up with enough liquid to choke it down.
Yes, and that's part of it, is that your mouth is dry while you're running because you're running and you begin to dehydrate. So even if you're drinking, your mouth is dry. Swallowing things is not the easiest thing in the world.
Agreed.
So I guess that's why people use the gels, and I'm not fond of the gels, so I have avoided them, but I guess that does make sense. But those are also so cloyingly sweet that then you have to just keep washing them down.
Yeah, they're sweeter than if you took a big hunk of icing. They're thicker than icing, or frosting. I guess.
Maybe we should buy a can of the prepared frosting and just like bring a plastic bag full of it and squirt it in.
I don't know. It's kind of the same thing. I shouldn't say that. I'm sure that the people who make those gels and the energy shots and things, they're very carefully, developed, but I don't know. They taste weird when you're running. It really does.
Right.
So
just went past 3 miles. Lots of people out in the neighborhood. People giving out water. And look, some beer. And tequila, apparently.
So I enjoyed the race, and I think having now doing that part of the course, I've raced it twice, and then we've done trial runs on it a couple of times. It just felt more familiar, and that was fine. But that I really was struggled with the last 3 miles or so. And there's such energy at the beginning of the race. and everyone is so excited. But by that point, people are just chugging along. So the energy changes.
Right. And, I think, gosh, how it must be to do the marathon, because I know the half, which is the first half of the marathon, there's a lot more support than out there.
Oh, no, that's not true.
You don't think so?
I don't think. I'm sorry, I shouldn't just say that. No, because when we did the relay race, there is a lot more neighborhood participation out there. Tremendous. And when you come down Market Street, there are bands out in front of the bars, and there is a lot of participation. There's a lot of support. Actually, I think there's probably more support there than there is in the first
that's great. I'm really happy to hear that. And I guess I never really realized, but I've only run the first parts. When we did the relay, I had leg number 2 on both of those years. And then I ran the half last year, which is leg 1 and 2 of the relay. So I didn't have as much experience with that. So I'm really glad to hear that, because I was thinking, how do these people that do the marathon do it when you're out there?
Oh, there are a lot of people out. So you run through the residential neighborhoods out there, and then even when you come up Portage Path, there's just a lot of spectators, because people who live there in those apartments come out, but also family members and friends who are spectating. They can park somewhere near, not too far away, and get there. So there's a lot of activity. Then you come down West Market, and there's all those little restaurants and shops and things, and there's a lot of people out on that, and bands playing, and there's actually a lot of fun going on through there. That was a very electrifying section of the race.
That's cool. I'm glad to hear that.
But I do enjoy. It's nice to have people out there cheering you on. I think that
right.
Fun.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference when you're running and, having different thoughts go flying through your head.
Monday?
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. What did you eat before the race?
Oh, before the race?
Or the day before?
Right.
Or the morning of? What did you eat?
Well, I tried to stay pretty strict with my diet in that, I didn't have anything junky.
Right.
I was careful to, I really like something called Ezekiel bread. I don't know if you've ever had it, but, it tastes very healthy to me. So I had mushrooms with spinach in an omelet. I ate that for breakfast on Friday morning before we went to the expo. And then when I got back from the expo, I had, I think it was salmon for lunch, kind of a late lunch, because we got back from the expo a little bit later than I had planned. And then I had some angel hair spaghetti, but I put some grilled vegetables on it. Not too much, just a light dinner, just something to kind of hold me over, but I wanted some carbs.
Right.
And then in the morning, the day of the race, I got up at 4:30, had my usual breakfast, which is 2 fried eggs and the Ezekiel toast, because I really like that, and coffee. I think I had 2 cups of coffee before, you came to pick me up. So that was what I had.
Okay, well, that sounds...
How about you? What did you have?
Well, I don't normally eat pasta and things, so I didn't have any of that. So Friday, I ate eggs for breakfast. I probably had some vegetables in there, scrambled eggs with some spinach and onion and peppers. Mm-hmm. Lunch, I had a spinach salad, and I put some tuna on there.
Yeah.
Protein. Yep. And I put a bunch of, I also added some seeds and, pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and a bunch of different vegetables. And I had my olive oil and vinegar on it. And then for dinner, I had these meatballs that I had fixed the day before, just sort of plain meatballs. And I had those, and I ate a sweet potato with almond butter on it.
Oh, yeah. And I remember you telling me that, and I was jealous. I was thinking, I need to do that.
So I cut it in half, actually. And so for breakfast, and I don't normally eat a very big breakfast, but I did eat the other half of the sweet potato with the almond butter in the morning.
Yeah, good.
And I had one piece. So I had this fancy grass-fed bacon in the refrigerator. So I had one slice of that, which I normally don't eat that too much, but I thought, well, that would be a good source of energy. Mm-hmm. I ate that, and I ate the sweet potato, and I had an egg and coffee.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. There was probably some protein at the end of the race would have been helpful.
Well, I think I'm going to bring protein powder next time to add to my water, because of all the things that they gave us, the milk is what really did it for me.
Yes.
You know, and maybe because I was a little bit dehydrated because I hadn't been drinking enough water either, because it was chilly.
It was.
You know.
It was. Yes, I think the chocolate milk. So the chocolate milk is a combination of like really quick sugar, and the protein in it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that it really did. That was good. And yeah, but there was really no protein. But I guess your people are trying to restore their carbs. But that was one thing. So the race was cold. I mean, it wasn't cold when you were running.
Was it even 60 some degrees?
No, I don't think
what
so.
Was it?
I think it was in the 50s, because I know at one point I was running and I noticed all these people who were out sitting there watching were all bundled up in hats, and they had blankets over them and coats and gloves.
Yeah.
And I said to this woman as I went running by, I said, "Is it cold?" And she laughed. She said, "Yes, it is."
Yeah, because I thought the weather was going to get up to as high as 70, but I don't think it did.
No,
when we finished, I was cold.
It was cold. So they had those wraps, those solar wraps or whatever they're called, and thank goodness because
a space blanket. That's what I call it. A space
blanket. Yes, it was.
That was perfect. I needed that.
Yes, definitely. I wrapped myself up in that and basically kept it clutched around me at all times because it was cold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I was really glad they did that.
Yes. So that was one thing about, and I guess I still would have had to walk across the street if we had used the bag.
The gear check bag.
The gear check bag. We could have put a jacket in there, but we still would have had to walk across there to get it. So.
Right. And, when we went to the expo, I bought a throwaway coat from the Goodwill. I thought that was very clever that they did that, because you pay $2 for a little jacket, and then you just leave it by the side of the course when you take off so that you don't have to, you can wear it for that hour while you're waiting to start. And then you leave it, and the Goodwill will pick it up again and be able to, launder it and sell it again, which is kind of like renting it for $2, which was great. But I could have used that jacket at the end of the race too if I had kept it, but I hadn't, obviously.
Yes, I got rid of mine as well, and a jacket at the end would have been good. Mm-hmm. So the one thing about the Akron Marathon is that it has a huge relay race component, which I gather it's one of the larger ones in the country, I guess. For relay.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you're right.
So, and that was how you and I got started with this whole race, was we did the relay race a couple of years and then decided, well, we might as well move up to the half marathon. So there's two things I want to say about that. Having now done the half marathon twice has not made me think, oh, we should just move up to the whole marathon. So it is not, that thought has not crossed my mind. But so now being out there running and noticing these relay stations going on, I was really so tuckered out in those last 3 miles, and I was just sort of struggling along. And there was at one point where there was a relay station, and these people were coming out there, and they were just bolting down the road. It's like, where are these people coming from with all this energy? And then I realized that they had just changed. There had just been a change in the relay race.
Well, that's what's cool about them wearing that pink sign on the back of their shirts that say relay.
Yes.
When someone passes you going, a mile a minute, you don't have to think, oh my gosh, what? And then you realize, oh, they're relay, fresh legs.
Right. So I just thought it was sort of funny to have that perspective from the other side now. When we did it before, I was always the person taking off and, passing people who had been running for 25 miles.
Right.
You know,
right.
so yeah, but it was noticeable to me this time, but that's so well organized because you really, it just happens and people are, exchanging their straps and whatever and going on. And it's kind of nice that is happening at the same time that people are running the marathon and the half marathon.
Well, and I think it's a wonderful way to participate without having to commit to 13 miles. You know, the way they had it set up, you could do anything from 4, 5. I think the longest one was 6.2, which is just really, it's a neat thing.
Yeah.
I really think it's a
Right.
very well done. And I don't know how they are so organized, but it was amazing to me how they had buses that can take people to the leg number 3 for the relay, or pick someone up that just finished leg number 3. It was very, very well organized.
Yes, very, very, very well organized. It's a well organized race. They have it down to a science, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And it's very enjoyable for that. I know they were planning on having 13,000 runners and thousands of volunteers and spectators. So it's quite the thing in Akron. And, I really appreciate that, all the residents are kind of put out that Saturday morning. I noticed no buses were running, or many of the bus schedules were changed. So it really, for people that rely on taking the bus to get to work, it really changes the dynamics of the city. And, it's wonderful as a runner to be able to experience it. But I wanted to, just kind of do a shout out to all the people of Akron who are inconvenienced by our relay or our marathon or our half marathon run.
Right.
Because it really, it was great to be able to experience it. And so a thank you to those people if anyone's listening.
Yes, thank you. According to the Akron Beacon Journal, the local paper, it said they had an estimated 115,000 people spectating along the 26 miles.
Wow. Well, no wonder it seemed like 1 million people.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
Other than that one area where the, I guess they call it the Central Interchange, Route 77 and Route 76 kind of come together there, and they're doing a lot of heavy construction. Other than that, there were a lot of spectators.
Right.
And it was cold. So
yes, it was. People were, the paper did say there were almost 9,000 runners at the race. So that would be for all of them, the marathon, half,
really?
and relay, I would think.
So what's next on your list, Jill? Have you thought about anything else?
Well, so Sunday, the day after, I thought, why not? So I signed up to do the Buckeye half marathon in November.
Oh my gosh. Well, you are feeling good. I think I'll be there spectating, cheering you on.
Okay. Well, it probably means, though, that I won't be doing the 5-mile turkey trot the following week.
Oh, right. Well, on Sunday, I too was feeling enthusiastic, but not in the same extent. So this next Sunday, I'm going to work a water station at the Towpath Marathon, which is down in the valley. So nothing like actually running, but kind of doing a little giving back, I guess.
Oh, that's nice. That race really appeals to me. I would really like to do it sometime. It's just so close to the Akron Marathon that...
Yeah, you can't do both, I don't think.
I can't do both. I don't think I have the ability to do both. But I really would like to do that one sometime. I've heard such good things about it.
Yeah, I've heard good things too. And it's a very flat course, obviously.
Right, which is what I'm also hoping for the Buckeye half marathon.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that one to comment.
It runs through the Cuyahoga Valley. It's on the road. It's not a trail run, but it's on the road. But it's through the valley. So I'm sure there's some hills, but not. I mean, in your car it seems pretty flat. But I've learned my lesson on what seems flat in my car does not seem flat when you're running. But I don't think it should be too hilly.
Well, as long as it's not the Buckeye Trail.
No, it's just called the Buckeye Half Marathon. You start at 10 o'clock. 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 one part of at the Howell Meadow, and you run down the road, do a big loop, and you do it twice.
Nice. Great. Well, you can count on me to cheer you on. So let's see. We have covered the pre, and we covered the race, and we covered the recovery. Was there anything else that you were going to mention about the Akron Half Marathon?
So my takeaway from the whole thing is I need a more organized training plan for future events, and I need to figure out the fueling part a little bit better.
During the race.
I think I was fine going into it because you can't stuff yourself full of food or you'd never be able to run. So I think I was prepared. I just need to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing during the race.
Yeah, I feel like before and after is good as far as food goes. And I would agree. I think I had a good plan, but then when I hurt my Achilles, I had to revise my plan, and I had a good plan using the physical therapy, but didn't make for a very fast race, that's for sure.
Well, that was the same. I mean, when we did the
Right.
Cleveland, I was dealing with the
Right.
Achilles, and I didn't have a very fast race then either. So,
But it's always good to finish strong and not injured, and that was really my overall goal, so I can keep exercising and keep working on being fit and strong, not, one and done kind of thing. So
right.
I am already signed up for the Cleveland Half Marathon in May, but that's so far away. It's too soon to begin working out for that or, charting the. But I did take notes as we were talking here because I want to remember come next February, March, April, when I'm doing my training for the May Cleveland Half, that I don't repeat the problems and I actually implement some of the ideas and solutions that worked well this year.
And it's probably time to sign up for the Akron for next year.
Yeah, I don't know when it opens again.
I know. They usually have immediately after the race, if you sign up. Okay.
Well, thanks, Jill. I appreciate you sharing your ideas with me too, because you're really moving forward with this.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your ideas because I find the more we discuss these things, it just stimulates my thinking and I get some bit more ideas on what I want to do.
Right. Well, we're all in this together, aren't we?
Yes, we are. So I would love to hear from our listeners about either a race that they've done or that they're training for or what they're doing instead, because not everyone is a runner, and that is perfectly fine.
And if anybody has some good ideas for food during the race, we are definitely open to hear that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Something besides the goo.
Right.
If you enjoy listening to the Becoming Elli podcast, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and our website, which is becomingelli.com.
That's ELLI for Ellie, who won in a wrestling match with Thor when she was challenged, and much to the surprise of everyone. That's why we call it Becoming Elli, because we're becoming fit and strong as well.
We'll see you next time at the next episode of Becoming Elli podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye.